organizational skills, that ability to manage time, prioritize tasks, stay on top of deadlines, set goals, and to develop a system to achieve these goals are all incredibly important. I know for me growing up, I used to hear the phrase, use your time wisely, all the time from family members, coaches, teachers, administrators. And I think as time has progressed, we have advanced upon that. And we have realized the importance of developing good organizational skills from someone who is in elementary school the whole way to people who are elderly and trying to manage their day-to-day existence. Today's talk is going to be about organizational skills, and specifically in reference to students in middle school, high school, elementary, and so forth. And I think it's also important to realize that almost everybody at some point has had moments where maybe they felt a bit unorganized, or they felt, whether it be going on a trip, going to the store, taking their kids to the playground, maybe a bit, they wish they'd been a bit more organized than they were, or that they are. However, when it becomes a trend, when it becomes part of who somebody is, where they're unorganized all the time, then it's something you really need to talk about. So in reference to students, we have our Gary here today. So hello, Gary.
I'm Mike.
At what point should it be looked at as something that's a real issue, really concerning?
Well, Mike, it's like you said, everyone, all of us, especially in today's world, can at times be overwhelmed or struggle with organization. Job expectations, responsibilities, children and family can sometimes spill over into each other, creating stress and complications. And it's like that for children too. Homework, studying for tests, participating in sports or extracurricular activities, and completing chores can often cut into social or relaxation time. And yes, creating stress and complication. Most adults and most children, however, are able to somehow navigate these rocky waters and steady their ships. Unfortunately, however, there are also many children who don't have the skills or the wherewithal to structure their lives, a deficit that has repercussions both at home and at school. These children struggle with poor time management and planning, such as the necessary skills to begin a task, to stay on task, and to complete a task, how to break tasks down into manageable components, and how to finish them within time frames. So when you start getting these kinds of things happening on a regular basis and their lives are starting to be affected, it's time to take note.
So if you're watching this, if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, and you think about, well, everyone's disorganized sometimes, what are some signs when someone should really be concerned and say, hey, this is a bigger problem than we realized?
Well, like we discussed, you don't look at any one particular action or behavior in isolation. It needs to be, first of all, over a certain period of time where it's consistently happening. And again, more than just one thing. But there are things that you can look for at school and at home. At school, typically children with poor organizational skills lose things like their belongings, their homework, or even their lunchbox. They have messy backpacks stuffed with papers that includes week-old assignments or homework, or sometimes even lunch from a week ago. They forget when assignments are due. They write papers, essays, or stories that are difficult to follow. These are children who take forever to do their homework or not even being certain how to do it. And they also often have clutter and mess, both inside and outside their desks. At home, typically these children have trouble getting ready or being on time for school in the morning. For example, looking for the shoe under the bed or the sock on the closet, or playing video games or with a family pet instead of brushing their teeth. They get into bed at night and they then get up because they have forgotten something. They actually take forever in the shower or to brush their teeth. They may get in the car to go somewhere and then realize they've forgotten something, and it's a whole big deal, going back for it or wanting to go back for it. It may even be their clothing all disheveled and their appearance matching that. But in general, these children struggle. They cannot be given multi-step instructions. They have to be given one instruction at a time. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. They're forgetful. They need constant reminders. They forget significant details or even miss the main idea of a discussion. They are forever procrastinating or waiting until the last minute to do something. They get easily distracted from the task, the assignment, or chore that they're doing. And these children often do or say things without consequences.
So I think as people listening to this, I know for me, I'm thinking, boy, that sounds like me sometimes. And I think all of us, these signs are things that we all do on occasion. The issue to really look for is the frequency of these things.
Correct.
So when it's 3, 4, 5 times, it's 5 times more often, that's when it becomes truly concerning. And as parents look at this, they're probably saying, boy, that may be my child. And the next question is going to be, why? Why does my child struggle with this? What are some causes? Why does somebody else's child not have these problems or struggles that my child has?
It can often be caused by difficulties with executive functioning. And executive functioning entails the intellectual processes needed to plan, prioritize, and manage tasks effectively. And this can also be impacted by things like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, where these children often struggle with organization due to difficulties with focus and impulsivity. It could be due to developmental delays, where children are not advancing at the age appropriate pace and start to fall behind. Sometimes children, for whatever the reasons are having stress or anxiety, and this affects their ability to stay focused and to think with clarity. And again, organization is impacted. You also have some children who learn differently. So when the traditional teaching methodologies are not working, it often leads to a lack of understanding and disorganization. And then a big one, consistent structure and routine, whether it be at school or at home, can also make it difficult for children to acquire organizational skills.
So it could be things that inherently they have. It could be outside factors from school or at home. So it'd be a combination of a lot of things.
Yes.
Absolutely. So if this is not addressed, I imagine a big concern, it could certainly play out as they move into adulthood. So how could this manifest and what are some of the long-term effects if organizational skills aren't improved when they're in school?
Well, like we said, it's really important to deal with this as early as possible, because if you lay a solid foundation and strong groundwork, it's going to be much easier for these children. But if this continues to become a problem, children are going to struggle at school academically, going to continue to lose things, fail to complete tasks. They won't be able to take on responsibilities efficiently. Many kids are going to struggle with taking care of their hygiene. And a big one is they will struggle to maintain healthy friendships. Yeah. And that's huge for children. As they become adults, it impacts their lives even further, and arguably even more so, because as adults, it does begin to affect their mental health, with stress and anxiety and depression coming into play, sometimes even physical health like frequent headaches. It affects their work performance due to missed deadlines, poor quality of work, job dissatisfaction as a result, and often squandered promotional opportunities, again, due to poor organization. Relationship problems, failure to follow through on commitments. There are times where you've had parents who have forgotten to pick up their kids from school or from a sports activity. It affects personal finances, whether it's poor management of money or budgeting, forgetting to pay bills on time. And with this comes the erosion of self-esteem, feeling despondent or feeling not good enough.
It's interesting because you mentioned a ton of great points there and really a lot to think about. But when you mention healthy friendships, and certainly at the middle school, high school age, I know from my experience in education, I know with you as well, that you've heard many stories where when they struggle to have these organizational skills and then in turn, it leads into struggles with showing up on time to go to the movies, showing up at time when they're at the safe fair and so forth. And you have all these complications that really affect friendships. But you also see this in adulthood when these adults who are in their 30s and 40s and raising their own kids, and that can affect friendships big time too, because they haven't learned these skills. They're kind of flying by the seat of their pants. They're not organized, and it affects adult friendships.
Yes.
So it could be in the neighborhood. It could be at whatever social gathering they have where they struggle with these things, and other adults see that and they're kind of shut off almost.
Yes. As we said, it significantly affects their entire lives, from work to home, from friendships to relationships and marriages to children.
Absolutely. So obviously it's something that's challenging, can be difficult, and something you want to correct. So from an educator's perspective, from a parent's perspective, what can be done to help? How can you help a child who's struggling in these areas?
Well, let's talk about school and then talk about home. What you parents can do. First of all, as far as school is concerned, set your child up with a specialized homework folder or binder. And in this assignment calendar, keep track of their daily and long-term work. By keeping track of their daily work, children know what the expectations are of your child and will know how to follow through with it, with you helping them. And then for the long term, to be able to plan effectively too, so that if someone asks them if they're able to go out and play, you'll be able to say yes or no by showing them whether something is due immediately or whether or not they still have time to do it. So that's one thing. Another thing is to speak to the school and see if they're prepared to dedicate the last 5 minutes of every class to helping your child get more organized by closing out the last period and getting ready for the next period. This is so huge to be able to finish off something and get ready to begin something. And perhaps even on the last day of the week, on a Friday afternoon, dedicating the last 15 minutes to binder organization time, because your child's binder, if they're disorganized, is going to be so chaotic and it's such a mess that being able to get rid of everything that's not necessary and only keep what is necessary, it's going to be much easier for them to keep up with the expectations. At home, like with school, use a calendar to keep track of home or school events. Telling your child, particularly to those who are distracted or have auditory processing difficulties, meaning they're not always hearing or listening to what's being said, keeping track of things on a calendar helps them to visualize. It's permanent, it's there, and it's much easier for them to follow what the expectations are. Encourage your child to get ready the night before with their backpack and clothes. Some children take forever in the morning to decide what they're going to wear. By being prepared or proactive, it's going to take much less time for them to get ready to go to school. Create a structured homework time and a structured homework space so they know where to go, where their tools are to do homework, and what the expectations are. A couple of things you can do which are actually fun, make it that way, is to create a game out of things. Take 10 or 15 things that you usually have to put away or your child has to put away and move them around, and then time your child in putting them away. See if they can beat their record. This will be fun for them and at the same time reinforce where things go. Another thing would be to pick a recipe and to make something together with your child. This way they read the ingredients that are necessary, you get them, you lay them all out, you then follow the plan of the recipe, the instructions, and then obviously the fun part is eating whatever you've cooked. But that's something it's going to help with organization. I remember that as a child too, trying to lick the bowl. Exactly.
The blender things.
Exactly. And then also how-to games, how to build a snowman, and to write it all out and come up with what you're going to do before you actually do it. Or, yes, we discussed the making of a cake. Going through the steps sequentially is very important. And what you can also do with your children is take a picture, a photograph of the bedroom, how you would want it, with toys put away, with clothing in the hamper, with the curtains open, with the lights off, whatever it is you need, so that they can visualize what the expectations are from you as opposed to what they see as being a room tidied up. So by doing these kinds of things, it's going to make a difference. There are many, many, many things you could do, but these are just a couple of tips that you as parents can try and implement into your daily lives and routines.
Yeah, just a great list, some great tips there on how to help parents and so forth. I also think it's interesting as I'm listening to you talk, kind of the side effects, the positive side effects. As someone becomes more organized, certainly their anxiety is going to go down. If they're stressing getting things done, they're stressing getting their schoolwork together, they're stressing planning for a trip, if they develop these organizational skills, that's going to go down. And also increasing their self-esteem, because as they improve upon these organizational skills, I would think their academic performance is going to improve. And there's all these just positive things on the side that as a result of having these good skills.
It affects everything. Like my mother might not appreciate the story, but I remember when I was visiting her, every single morning she was complaining about the traffic and being so aggravated about all the bad drivers. And this one's a bad driver. She cannot believe how bad the drivers are in the city. And I said, it's very easy to fix. So what we did was the next morning we left 15 minutes earlier. And suddenly the traffic was flowing, drivers were good, and it fixed everything. And it was not even a mindset. It was simply a matter of organization. So these are just little things. And yes, as you said, having good organization is going to impact every aspect of your life.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Gary. Just so much great information. We really appreciate it. And organizational skills, that ability to manage time, to prioritize tasks, certainly one of the more important skills you can have. And in turn, by doing this, you can become more productive, use your time more effectively. And this is a work-life balance, a school-life balance, just being more happy because you have that balance, both as someone who's a student trying to juggle things between their classes and their social life, and as an adult dealing with all of adult responsibilities. The more organized you are, the better you feel, and you're just going to be happier. So we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.